both have to be the allotted ones, but that certainly would be, I think, an additional reason that's acceptable.
Exactly. It was in the town, so.
Or I've got a town supervisor in another town that likes to, in executive session, actually text other people about what's going on in an executive session. That's cool. Last week we
Better than the town in which someone recorded and posted on Facebook what was happening in executive session, but you don't want to know about that. It's not our town. So
yeah,
That'll be the
that's,
same next year.
that'd be a nearby town to us. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so
That would be a town where the supervisor is retiring.
Okay, we'll call the July 7th Poughkeepsie Joint Water Board meeting to session. Oh, first thing on the agenda, public participation. Doreen?
Thank you. So at the last meeting, you talked about the Central Hudson dredging for the tar. And for those who weren't on the board, it was discussed back in 2018 and 2019. Just want to remind the board that there was a consultant hired, a Dr. Robert Chant from Rutgers, that was the water board consultant. And he's issued a report. We met with DC and different people. So if you're going to be in need of a consultant again, instead of reinventing the wheel, you may want to see if he's still available and if it's still pertinent to have him on behalf of the water board reviewing items. Also, it was a little unclear to me at the last meeting, you had talked about discussing the bylaws at a workshop. And I didn't see that posted on the website. And so I don't know if that's going to be held as a separate meeting, but it's part of today's meeting. It also should have been, the records to be discussed should have been posted at least 24 hours ahead of time, part of the open meetings law. And again, it doesn't matter if you call it a workshop, it's still a meeting if you're having a forum and you're discussing business, so you still need to adhere to the open meetings law. And the last thing is that a reminder about posting of records 24 hours in advance. If there's any resolutions, any things that that weren't posted, that presumably because they came up at the last minute, they should be made available for the public at the meeting. Thank you.
Were the bylaws circulated as part of the package of documents for today that were posted online for the public?
I circulated to them to the board. I
Okay.
did not post the bylaws on the website.
Okay, that's great. Thanks.
Any other public participation? Sir?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh. Okay, next item of business is approval of the June 2nd minutes. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Central Hudson update.
So I would like to welcome some people online that are from the health department as well as Central Hudson. And I would like to speak first. I can unmute myself. Betsy, I guess, would you like to speak first?
Sure. I'll kick it off and then I'll probably give the floor to Jerry Pratt at the DEC. Just to introduce maybe some of his team members there from the Department of Environmental Conservation. Jesse Gallo, Environmental Coordinator at Central Hudson Gas and Electric. You'll see Joe Jenkins is also on the call from our Corporate Communications Department. We're here really to provide a brief overview of the project that we have coming up starting later this month. That'll probably extend for about 8 weeks or so. What I'll do maybe after Jerry introduces his team, if I can share some information. I don't know if I can share the screen or not. don't know if I have that capability.
It made you a host, so you should be able to do that.
Okay, I'll kick it to Jerry just to introduce his team members, and then I'll put together a little slideshow.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jerry Pratt, and I'm with New York State DEC. And I'm the current project manager for this site that Jesse's going to talk about. And I also have on the line with me from DEC, Sarah Saucier, who is my supervisor, and Caroline Gelenti, who is also supporting us, supporting me and Sarah in this project as well. And looking forward to talking with everybody.
Okay, great. Can you see my screen there? Or see
Yes.
my presentation? We're good?
Yep. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm not sure how many at the meeting were involved with this project previously, so I kind of put together just a few informational slides just so that, bring people up to speed of, first of all, what a manufactured gas plant is, and also discuss some of the activities that have been completed on this particular project site, and then some of the activities that we'll be completing over the next several months. So you see here, this is an aerial photograph dated back in the 40s and 50s. It shows what the manufactured gas plant kind of looked like, or it actually looked like this, obviously. You've got the walkway over the Hudson there, which was an active railroad trestle at that time. You've got some infrastructure at the base there on the eastern side, is the forefront of the photo. You've got some tanks, a couple of buildings, a Horton sphere, that's that round structure almost in the dead center of the lower of the photograph. And these things are all built prior to there being natural gas as we know it now. So what occurred over history was when larger cities or even medium-sized cities were built, and originally what they did is they heated coal, sometimes oil, and created a gas. And this is what was originally piped through gas pipes into cities to create lamps, light lamps, and create street lights. That's why you have gas lamp districts in some cities across the country that have remained preserved. Over time, it became more prevalent. They obviously observed that they could do a lot more than just light streets, and they piped this gas into houses and businesses and used that for cooking and heating. And then natural gas, as we know it today, became a little bit more efficient, generally back in the 40s and 50s, and even into maybe early 60s. And these manufactured gas plants were decommissioned across the country. New York State, I believe, and Jerry could probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the last I remember, there's somewhere between 350 and 400 manufactured gas plants across the state. They're very concentrated in larger cities, like New York City has dozens and dozens of former manufactured gas plant sites. They're not as prevalent up in the Hudson Valley, only because, the population is not as great. The cities are smaller, and a lot is generally rural, where there was no natural gas or no manufactured gas piped to different businesses or residences. So I'll turn the slide here. So this particular manufactured gas plant, I'll skip through this, operated from 1911 to 1955. There's another aerial there that just shows a little bit better perspective of the infrastructure and the buildings that are in place. Also to the left of that photo is the Dutton lumber business that was there, which now is, I think it's One Duchess Ave, or I forgot what the name of that those townhouses and condos are called. And they actually owned the bottom corner of our present day property as well at that time. So where we have current natural gas infrastructure, we have a regulator station there. That was formerly owned by that lumber facility as well. But this shows various buildings, various infrastructure, the tanks that I mentioned before. Essentially, those tanks are almost like billows. As gas was created down in the plant itself, it would be piped into these tanks that expanded. And as that gas was used, the tanks would obviously push down, and that was gravity. Essentially, it was pushing that gas out into the city there. Since then, since operations ceased in 1955 at this particular MGP site, contamination obviously was identified, and the New York State DEC essentially went and canvassed the entire state, put together a comprehensive list of potential manufactured gas plant sites, and created a program more or less to start going through these and assess them for any potential contamination. So Central Hudson, along with pretty much all the other utilities in the state, were part of that back in the 90s, when preliminary phase 1s and phase 2s were conducted at these sites. And phase 1s are more or less just like a historical data dive into everything: ownership, what was there, records, title searches, Sanborn maps, you name it, was all in a phase 1. Phase 2 is a little bit more intrusive. It's collecting physical data and generally soil and groundwater analytical data. So that was all done in like the early 90s. This site progressed even further, where there was several iterations of site assessments, both in the uplands portion, which is what you see, as well as in the river, underneath the walkway over the Hudson, and extending out to about I think it's a little closer to shorter than that first support for the walkway over the Hudson. So that was done between, as we see here, 1990 and 2015, in partnership with the DEC, and this is a brownfield cleanup project. In 2016, the New York State DEC issued their decision document, which essentially says, a remedial approach that's going to be undertaken for the property. We then put together a remedial design in the latter half of, I think, 2016 into 2017, and ultimately had New York State DEC approval on that. 2018, we initiated some remediation out there, primarily on the upland portion. So that was completed, as well as installing a bulkhead wall. So the bulkhead wall runs from essentially the end of Duchess Avenue there, all along the water down to our electric transition station, which isn't shown on this photo, but it's to the south of the walkway over the Hudson. And that is primarily to stop any migration of residual coal tar that's at bedrock depth on the upland portion from moving into the river, or the river sediments, or the slope. So that was all completed in the 2018 timeframe, and then we switched to the in-river portion of the remediation. And I think that's where obviously the Poughkeepsie Water Board and the water treatment facility were heavily involved at that point, especially during some of our iterations of attempting to kind of come up with a design approach to remove the sediments. And as you recall, I'm sure some of you do, that there was a moon pool that was just could not be constructed after we attempted in the river. We did a full-scale hydraulic dredge pilot test, and that also proved that that would not be an effective means of remediating all of the sediment that would have to be removed per the decision document. So after all that work was done, roughly, and I think by the end of 2022 there, we developed focused remedial alternatives, which kind of took another look at potential remediation pathways here. Submitted that to the DEC. The DEC then reviewed it, and I think conceptually, and Jerry can chime in, we were, under the understanding that based on our previous attempts here to remove on a full scale, large scale with the sediments, that we would potentially look at ways of targeting really heavily impacted areas and then potentially capping the remaining residuals. So that's been discussed with the DEC. There's been some back and forth, and that's in the 2023-24 timeframe, where we submitted some documents, and then the DEC ultimately accepted the potential to revise our remedial approach out here. And what we're doing now was it's called a pre-design investigation. Essentially, it has us going out into the river once again to collect some more information. So this is sort of twofold. The DEC, in conversations with them, wanted to get some more recent data or up-to-date data, because as you see in the beginning of these bullets here, a lot of the data was collected 10, 20 years ago. So, we want a design that's useful. Obviously, we want some information that's useful in creating this design. So it's more or less a refresh of some of the data that we've been relying on now for quite some time. And it's also to essentially identify areas that we would focus this target removal. And let's do the next slide here. And this you'll probably recall from my email that was distributed. This is essentially copied and pasted from that. This is a bullet list that I just kind of whittled down the work plan, just so it's just easier to comprehend. Just pulls out the major points. We have our consultants or engineer of record on board, and that's AECOM. They've selected a contractor for the drilling. Says approximately 26 to 34 6-inch diameter bore holes that would be advanced roughly 10 to 20 feet below the sediment surface. So in this area, we have about 60 feet of water to the sediment surface. So you're talking about somewhere between 70 to 80 feet below, the top of the water. So it's a decent depth. It's not easy, but we've done it many times out here before. This is utilizing direct push technology. So I don't know if there's any knowledge of that, but it's not a standard auger drill rig, like the big drill rigs you see that spin an auger in the ground. This is just pushed hydraulically down into the sediment. Essentially, very little noise, if any. You don't have the pounding that you would have in some of the other drill rigs. And I believe that the different sections here, we're looking about somewhere between the time frame of 8 to 10 weeks of in-river activities. During that time, there'll be someone from AECOM, a scientist stationed on the walkway of the Hudson. We've already made those arrangements with the Parks Department. So similar to what we've done in the past during some of our other activities out here, we've had an observer up there. Basically, their sole objective is to look for any potential sheens. And then they have a radio that goes right down to the folks on the barge, and they communicate. There's also a patrol boat. We call it Sheen Patrol Boats. Their contractor that is specifically on call there at the project site, and they'll be deployed, if necessary, when there's sheens. They can go out there and essentially use absorbent materials to capture them. And we've had this process in place previously. I think it was before Jerry was involved with the project, but it worked quite well, actually. And also here, the last bullet obviously is that, in the event that we do have sheens out of any control, that we can manage, we would obviously be contacting the DEC, who will likely be on the property anyway, and the Poughkeepsie Water Treatment Facility. Similar to what we've done protocol in the past, where that open line of communication has always taken place. Luckily, and we've never actually had to do that in our previous activities. These are just some photos I took. This is not exactly what you're going to see. I just kind of took these from the internet. But these are pretty much the scale you're looking at. The bottom photo there shows a truck mounted drill rig. That's a larger drill rig. We're not going to be using something like that. Will probably be one of the top two photos there. You'll have a little barge platform, a little boat, obviously be able to move the thing around and also transport people back and forth. This will be moved to the shore side each day, and they'll tie up alongside the bulkhead there, so it won't be out there for the full 8 to 10 weeks at a time. It'll be lit. They have to notify the Coast Guard for navigation reasons, although this will be entirely out of the shipping channel itself. And as I alluded to, the schedule, we're looking to mobilize the week of July 21st. It's roughly 8 to 10 weeks of in-river field activities. So that puts us about early, middle October. That's even actually including some weather-related days, that they're not going to be able to do some work out in the river. And then essentially for the remainder of the year and then into early next year, the engineers are going to be reviewing the data and coming up with the next course of action. And this is just another photo. Actually, this shows current activities on the site, where you have the Dutton condos there, and what our property looks like. It's just gravel, and that's the receival station for the natural gas line there. And I'll give it to Jerry if he wants to add anything more, and then we can entertain any questions or comments.
If no one has any comments to that, I could just jump in to give you our part in this process and project.
I just had a quick question for Jesse. Does cloud cover affect if the scientists are going to be able to see the sheen or not? I mean, can they see it on a cloudy day, on a sunny day? Because recently we have not had many sunny days.
So the answer is yes. However, during weather events,
Right.
So it's like the thunderstorms, for instance, we just had, we're not going to be working in those. They're not going to be out in the water, obviously, in any sort of significant storms. They will, as we've done previously, is that we wait, obviously, till well past the sunrise, and then we're done well before the sun sets. That's the big thing, is like if it becomes too dark outside, that really limits what we can visually see on the water. But at any means or any time where their visibility is restricted, that means that we stop work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned that it's gonna take, 8 to 10 weeks, but is it a daily event that you'll be out there drilling, or is it specific days? Are you able to share the days that you will be out there?
It's generally Monday to Friday for those 8 to 10 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a very slow, laborious process. Like I said, you're in 60 feet of water and then you're drilling 10 to 20 feet down. I mean, we're lucky if we get 1 or 2 borings done a day. And then they're having to move it around. Obviously, it's just not as easy as it is on land, unfortunately. But yeah, that is the plan, is Monday to Friday, general business hours. We're not going to be out there at 6 a.m. We're not going to be out there at 9 p.m.
Okay. If there's no other question, I'll just jump in and I'll start by saying that the DEC's involvement in the project will be to oversee the work that's being conducted by Central Hudson, and will be on site to monitor the ongoing activities on a daily basis. As part of our oversight, we require environmental controls to be put in place, some of which Jesse talked about in terms of being able to control any sheens or contamination that might come to the surface and start floating away. Central Hudson was also going to be required to do air monitoring for the work. Even though it's in the water, I think there's still some, there could be releases of some of that coal tar odors during the investigation. We'll be on the boat as well as up on the walkway over the Hudson, to also, to also see what's going on above and on site, on the water. We'll be, advising Central Hudson as the work goes along on, on the progress, and we'll be in constant communication with them throughout this investigation. I think my contact information has been given out either through the emails or Jesse, I don't know if it was in the work plan or not, one of the contact things, but my contact information is available for everyone to contact me if they have any questions. If they see something while it's in process, I'll be available for your inquiries. That's generally how that's our involvement with the work at this point. We've gone over this work plan extensively with Central Hudson internally. We've had a lot of input from a lot of different divisions on this, so we feel like it's a good, sound work plan to get, like Jesse said, a good current conditions type of view of the project overall, as well as getting into where we want to target a removal. As Jesse said, this project's been difficult technically, and we've been trying to get it essentially to a manageable size to get something done. I think we all agree something has to be done, and we're trying to get there with this approach. And we'll see how it goes, but we expect to be moving forward the project and overall remediation of the site, starting with this, and we'll continue to move forward in a consistent manner.
But as someone who's relatively new to this, can you talk about what would happen after October? What are sort of the upcoming steps after this step?
Sure. Oh, Jerry, did you want to talk?
No, go ahead, Jesse.
Okay.
I'll back you up.
So all of this data, it's going to be a lot of sediment cores, sediments. We're also doing different toxicology on different organisms. A lot of different studies on the information that we're going to gather here. And that takes time, obviously. So that's probably going to take the remainder of the year after October, where it's a lot of lab data and then engineers and scientists essentially going through all that data to interpolate it and then put everything together into essentially a summary report of what they found. So that's going to take 6 to probably 9 months to get through that process. That's why I put in there sort of the 2025 into early 2026 timeframe. And then we're kind of at the point to regroup with the DEC and say, okay, well, this is what we found out here. Does it fit the possibility of refining our remedial approach out here? And what does that look like? And essentially that's the path we go down after that is, reviewing the data with the DEC, and then coming up with hopefully a plan that will work. That takes time. I would put a question mark as far as how long after that. But that's kind of it. That's for the foreseeable future. At this point, we don't have any details or information on an acceptable remedial approach, and we don't have the same for a schedule.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
So as Jesse mentioned, this is going to take years again before we're in the water actually cleaning up something. By the time like he said, they generate the report in 6 to 9 months. It's going to take us some time to review that internally as well. Not 6 to 9 months, but probably a couple of months, or if we're lucky. And once that's done, another alternatives analysis will be done, explaining how those alternatives were justified, or those cleanup measures are justified, and then a design will be created after that. Once a remedy is selected, so there's quite a bit of reporting and I'll just say bureaucracy involved, administration of it, if you will, to get the paperwork in place before we're out on the water again.
Yep, and I'll add, there's also a lot of time for input. So,
oh yeah, and we'll have public. There'll be public input as well.
Correct. So it's not like we're doing this, just between the DEC and ourselves. It will involve public input.
What does the property look like when you guys are done remediating? Like, do you have anything on that property now? Are you going to sell the property and it'll be developed, or it'll always stay Central Hudson? There's infrastructure there.
I can't really speak to that directly. I can say that currently there's natural gas infrastructure on the northern side and there's electrical infrastructure on the southern side. So there's not a lot of, what I would say would be open space currently. But to the future use of some of that property, I can't directly speak to that. I know I will answer, though, that the walkway over the Hudson obviously has the walkway to the elevator that traverses the property, as well as the footprint of the elevator. So we had obviously worked with them, I think that was almost 10 years ago now, to have that portion of the property remediated so that they could install that walkway and put that elevator in place. But I'll defer to Joe if there's any questions on like the future. I'm sure either he could speak or get someone in touch that I could offer more than I can.
So I guess that's it, then, done. I appreciate you guys coming and explaining what's happening, bring us home.
Sure, and if there's any questions, feel free to obviously reach out. We want to keep it open dialogue, and we'll obviously keep you apprised of how the project goes. And that's it.
Does the health department have any concerns with this at all?
So this is Jim Upright with Dutchess County Department of Health.
May I speak a little
We reviewed the work plan. What they're proposing for their investigation is minimally invasive. It's probably the best available technology that they could use. Our concern is what happens after the investigation, and obviously they don't know. So that's where we're concerned at this point. But their safety protocols and they've learned a lot since the first time they spoke to the river.
Could you guys hear that?
Yes.
We have good mics.
Okay then, well, thank you very much, and jump off whenever you'd like, or you can stick around and listen to the rest of the meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Everyone have a good night.
Night.